Now, two people in particular that we're going to start talking about here are two people that have continued on with the Daily Wire, with Ben Shapiro, who didn't leave like Candace Owens left. And that, of course, are the two biggest accounts that they have outside of Ben Shapiro. That's Mr. Walsh and Mr. Knowles. And they have very sizable platforms. They have a very big reach. And as you have probably observed, as I have, those two have tried to tap dance on the Israel issue so hard for the past several months that it's not a surprise that it's going in the direction that it's going in right now. So here's what Fuentes had to say regarding both Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles.
Knowles for years. He preaches Catholicism, but I never pursued the Catholic Church until I found your show. I wonder why? God bless you. Love you, brother.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, I mean, the thing is about Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh is they're just slaves. They're just slaves to Israel. And it's pathetic. I mean, they have kids. How are they going to explain to their kids that they're slaves to Israel? They're all doing this shtick about, oh, I'm a dad, I'm a family man, I have kids, I'm mature. Yeah, but you are owned by Ben Shapiro. You can't talk about Israel because you work for Ben Shapiro. What does that say about you? You are a Catholic working for a Jew who hates you.
He was almost there, but then he decided to make it, he's working for the Jew, and that's the problem. And I have said for the longest time, if we do not distinguish between Zionists and Jews, the level of anti-Semitism is going to hit a fever pitch in this country because of people like Ayel Jacobi and Hillel Fuld and all of these who I consider to be you want to talk about the first people that I would deport? I'd deport those pieces of shit into the Middle East. Well, actually, no, I don't even give a fuck where they would go. Just get the hell out of this country. Because there is anti-American. No one is more anti-American than these motherfuckers that celebrate Israel 24/7. They are the worst of the worst, and they all hide behind their fucking religion of the worst kind. Peter Saddington is coming on the podcast on Monday from Matt Kim's podcast. And we're going to talk about this insider bullshit that people don't know about when it comes to bank loans that people of a certain background are able to get away with. But people like Jen Perlman, there's not enough of them speaking up about this shit. The distinction between the two is key. And if you allow Fuentes to just blanket it, like, I don't give a fuck what Dan Bilzerian has to say. He is the biggest joke of them all. He's not a real commentator. He's a fucking Nepo baby who said a few correct things. Nick Fuentes, he is not good. He is a great orator. He is great at what he does. And that's why people are drawn to him. And I know everyone has these opinions, if you will, about, well, he's really a little Hitler and all this shit. Here's what I know. I know that people listen to what he has to say. And if they're going to listen to him, more and more people are going to continue to listen to him. So now we have to ask ourselves, what does that future look like? I'm not sure yet. So he's right, but he's not completely right either. Your thoughts?
I will say this. I don't like doing the qualifications, but I think it's important for people who don't really follow Nick. It's not all Jews. It is not, when he says that, he is not talking about all Jews, and we won't get into, there's a whole separate question talking about Jews in general, but that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, when I'm darker than Wesley Snipes probably, and if you look at my Twitter and you search the word blacks, you would probably think I was in a Ku Klux Klan or something like that.
Did you ever see the movie Passenger 57?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remember, always bet on black.
Black, yes.
Favorite line from that movie.
Yep. So it doesn't matter if I'm viewed as black or whatever that is. The group dynamic is the group dynamic. And that's my interpretation of what he's saying there. So if you're just jumping into Nick, because when I looked at Nick and I heard about him, I thought he was like the most far right, like you would ever find in this world. He's a moderate, believe it or not. He's a moderate. He's a moderate that will say things that some people, off-color jokes and stuff. But on these topics, he is a moderate. And just for the Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles thing, again, I don't want to speak for Nick. This is my interpretation. is that Nick actually has a lot of respect for Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh. I do. On the right, there's a lot of people on whatever that is. On the right, I think there are a lot of people who are kind of disappointed because Matt Walsh, he's not a debate bro live kind of guy, but Matt Walsh is one of the best writers of our generation. When he puts pen to pad, he is like Jay-Z for like op-eds. He is unbelievable as a writer. And I think the frustration is you are capped. You're talking about the transgender issue when we've got the US bombing Iran and you can't really fully get into the topic. So I think I think Nick's almost trying to guilt them into leaving. And I think at some point, Matt has gotten so big, Daily Wire would be, I don't know where they would be without him at this point. They lost Candace, they lost Brett Cooper. I think he's going to have to leave.
I would agree. And I also think, look, there are things that I can, like everybody, Michael Knowles was nice enough to platform Jen when she was running for Congress, even though they had disagreements, but they were at least willing to have a conversation. That to me, I think was a very necessary evil, even if you don't agree on key issues. But if you can find that pathway on this issue, that's what's key. I know what Nick is up. I know what he's up to. Like, I totally see what he's doing. He wants to take down Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, who are, especially in terms of the millennial and Gen Z generations, they are the two biggest gatekeepers in conservative media today that are holding back this true America First libertarian movement that is going to break away from what has been this imperial hegemon that we have been living through for the longest time. And I do see what he's trying to do. But that doesn't mean that I can go along with everything that he's saying. And I don't think people should. And I think if he says something that's wrong, people need to critique him on it. There is no reason not to push him. I know he has a big ego, but you know what? We on this channel have an obligation to say what he is saying correctly, but also what he's not saying correctly. To just blindly go along is the biggest mistake. And we know other channels are going to do it because they're trying to catch the fucking heat wave that he's providing for them right now. But I ain't doing it. And neither is Jen. Got to keep it 100. Let's hear what else he has to say.
They're either completely ignorant or they're complicit, which makes them traitors and cowards. But it's disgusting. And I say this like, look, I wish they would just join the winning team. Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, what's going on, man? What is going on? You call yourselves Catholics? What would Charles Martel have to say? What would the kings and queens of Europe have to say? It's unbelievable. The Jews collaborated with our enemies, with the Muslims, with the communists, with you name it.
The anti-Muslim bigotry is so real. It's so big. They really can't hide it. Now, I don't see Fuentes as the type of person that's going to make it his mission in life to go after them the way that Charlie Kirk has. But my God, dude, I guarantee you not a single one of them has ever stepped into a mosque once in their life. Not once. No chance.
Well, let me say, I think what this is here, what's happening in the world is a religious battle. And I think, and I will agree with Nick on this. This is where I will take it, is that there needs to be a better balance in power between faiths. Right now, when you look at America, we are dominated by Zionist, evangelical Christians, and Jews. Zionists through and through. There might be, a handful that aren't? Yeah. 5, maybe 6, maybe at the most. I don't even know what the number is right now. And I think the push right now is there has to be a better balance than that. And the Christians who are Zionists, I don't even count them as Christians. So in my opinion, there's no Christian power, no Catholic power. And I think that's why he's calling it out in that way.
Well, you're not going to get much of an argument from me since my father is Irish Catholic. So I have always leaned into the fact that there's a lot of problems with the Catholic Church, but considering who their last 2 popes are, they have at least been moving in the direction of a more honest and just world. There has never been any comparison, in my opinion, to Catholicism and evangelical Protestantism. There is no comparison. If you were brought up in an evangelical church, I truly feel sorry for you. And we've had Casey Malone on. If you haven't checked her out, she's been on a couple of times. She has a great channel. She was raised in an evangelical upbringing in Oklahoma. And she's talked constantly about what that was like, having to listen to the likes of John Hagee and Joel Osteen and Pat Robertson, and then talk about Israel and the importance of Israel. And all the time you're realizing, now this is just about money and power. This isn't about anything else. You've been duped. And so that's your problem. But as I've said, if you continue to allow the Zion Nazis to control the narrative, you're going to allow the elements of it's just the Jews to seep into the consciousness of people. And that's why you're seeing a lot of them spew that shit. Now, I don't think Fuentes is the worst of them, but he's definitely leaning on it. Not fully, but I know, like, I can see what he's doing, and it's not good. I don't like it. And that's why it has to be critiqued. Because again, are there issues in the Muslim faith? Of course there is. There's a difference between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. But what is the overwhelming majority of Muslims in the world, and especially in the United States? They're Sunni. They're not Shia. They think everybody's, turning into a terrorist, and that's fucking nuts. And they talk about it in the worst kind of way. I've been around. I've spent time in Ilhan Omar's presence multiple times. The way these people get treated, I don't. You want to talk about somebody who gets death threats on a regular basis? How the hell she puts up with it, I don't know. But to her credit, and you spew this type of stuff, and the only honest operators out there are the ones who get drowned out. The loud ones, the ones who really need the platform, they're not getting it, and that's what I hate. So when Nick says that, we hate Muslims, it's like, fuck that shit. Somebody has to push back on him and tell him, that's not the answer. If you're going to do it honestly. There's a difference between Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims, and there's a difference between Zionists and Jews. Make the distinction. If you want to bring in as many people as humanly possible and end this control that Israel has over our country, that's the only way it's going to happen. You have to distinguish them. Make people pick a side. That's how it's done.
The liberals and revolutionaries, and they try to fashion themselves as crusaders, Charles Martel would spit on you. How do you justify working for Ben Shapiro in 2025? Your boss, your colleague, is the arch neocon of America. He is synonymous with Israel first, and you work at his company, and you're a Catholic? You're America first? Matt Walsh has the gall to say virtue. He says, are you going to do the right thing when it's difficult? Don't talk to me about doing the right thing. Never use the word courage with me, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. You're not allowed to use that word. You are a coward. You're a coward and a traitor. You work for Ben Shapiro. You might as well work for Mark Levin. You might as well work for Laura Loomer. You might as well work for Netanyahu. You practically do. And they downplay the Israel issue. It's all, for them, it's all just white grievance politics. It's slop. I watch Matt Walsh's show, and it makes me fucking furious. This doofus rolls up his sleeves with his flannel and his beard and says, but you're not allowed to say that. That's racist. White people are treated bad. White people, black people suck. How are more Somalians going to make America better? And it's just fucking slop. It is slop for stupid white people to eat up. Our country is occupied. Why are we bringing in Somalians? That's a good question. Why are we bringing in millions of immigrants from foreign countries? That's a good question. You want to know why? Because 100 years ago, a Jewish playwright said, we're a melting pot. Because for 100 years, we have been propagandized by a minority that does not see themselves as European, that is not Christian, that has told us what our values are, which is that we are a melting pot, we are diverse, we are pluralistic and tolerant.
I got a lot to say, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah. Let me just go back on a little bit what you said there. First, to make sure that we're clear, Nick Fuentes does not hate anybody. He is a very devout Christian Catholic, and he does not promote violence. I would never associate with anybody who promotes hate or violence. And I didn't know that until I started listening to him, and he kind of explained it out. So I want everybody to give him a chance. Don't assume that that is where he's coming from. He will challenge other religions. But the future, I just have to be honest. Let me take it here and I'll give it back to you. The future is going to be anti-Semitic, and they're not helping it. I mean, if Donald Trump...
Jen says the same thing.
It is. I mean, it is, because you see Donald Trump wins, and then the first thing that RFKJ does, literally the first thing he does is says, basically, from the health department, that anti-Semitism is a health concern. And I'm like, what is going on right now? Literally every single move is something that has to do with Israel. And the core is, I don't know if you saw, Destiny's son is a Groiper, is a Nick Fuentes fan. And he's a younger, I don't know how old he is, he's a young kid. That's how a lot of them are. But what they're doing is they're seeing all this stuff and nobody has good answers for it. And they have no problem. They don't watch Fox. They don't watch Daily Wire. So they don't have any problem going to Nick.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, and I see how some of our chat's reacting. I want people to understand something. This is kind of like the same response that I try to explain when it comes to the Zionist population of the United States. You know, a lot of people associate it as being a Jewish thing, but the fact of the matter is Christian Zionists outnumber Jewish Zionists like, I don't know, 10-1 in the United States. So the perception is one thing, but it is important that we hear how other people are thinking. You know, a lot of this language, this insulary language that Nick is using, is the type of stuff that goes on in the chat rooms on Reddit and some of those like deeper, you know, I forget the
4chan.
Yeah, 4chan, AMA, so things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you remember? Do you remember the McDonald's advertisement, Moon Man, the Mac at Night? Do you remember that thing?
No.
Okay, so I went into the rabbit hole not too long ago where Moon Man apparently was constructed into this extremely racist version of Doom. Like they redid the characters. Like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, as a black guy, you got to see it. It's so fucking insane. But the type of people that do that type of stuff, as I've been saying for the longest time about Fuentes and who he channels people that hate themselves and hate this world. I have mentioned this on the podcast before. I have gone into places, as one I will never forget, when I first got into commercial real estate. I went to this multifamily property in Pompano Beach, Florida, and I walk into this guy's apartment. And it's maybe 400 square feet. It looks like a fucking dump. And what is he doing? He's standing by his computer in the middle of the day, so clearly he don't have a job, so he's not out there doing work, or if he is, he's working overnight. And what's he doing? He's watching Tim Pool. That's what he's doing. And to me, that speaks a lot to millions of people out there in this country that are angry, that are frustrated, and they feel that guys like Fuentes are speaking to them in a way that other people don't. There is this hatred that a lot of men have towards women because they can't get dates, they can't get laid. There's a lot of issues there. And Fuentes has a very nasty anti-woman streak, and they listen to it and they embrace it because they're like, well, you know what? Women don't like me and women hate me. So you know what? He's right. He's absolutely right about this. And so when he starts going off in this direction, and don't worry, guys, we actually have a good clip of Fuentes coming up when he talks about Peter Thiel. We'll get to that in a minute. But there is no question that whether it's because this is personal animosity that this guy is feeling and he's projecting it into the world and other people are agreeing with him, there is sort of this blanket association of everybody that, in my opinion, is dangerous. And when he goes there, he's only, in the short run, it's going to work. In the long run, it's going to be dangerous. And that's why we have to talk about this. That's not to say that it can't change, but never forget that he was one of the leaders of getting people to the Capitol on January 6th. I don't think people truly understand how many people he got to go to the Capitol. Like, he is extremely influential. Like, he is a real leader.
Oh, yeah.
And not necessarily in a good way. I'm just calling a spade a spade. That's what it's about. Like, he is a very influential individual. And I always wonder if people that have that type of power truly understand that with it comes, as cliche as it may be to say, a lot of responsibility. And I don't know if he fully has that because he's still a relatively young guy. And I think he's very immature in a lot of ways as well. My thoughts.
Well, I just want to say happy birthday coming up. I think Monday is his birthday. He's coming off. He's going to take the day off. But here's what I think people are seeing, though. Let me challenge you here from this standpoint. He is basically, in the purest sense, not in a negative sense, I view him as a white nationalist, a white Christian nationalist.
I agree.
And America views him, even the right, views him as negative. Israel is literally a Jewish ethno-state, a country that is designed literally to protect Jews. So, and they're celebrated here. So people are coming up, young men. This is a movement that is really driven by young white Christian men are seeing this and saying, wait a second, I never hated anybody. All I said is this country was started by white Christian men. They don't even say there can't be anybody else here. They don't say kick out the blacks or anything like that. They're peaceful. And they say, wait a second, I'm treated like I'm a villain in my own country, and I'm forced to support an ethno-state 7,000, 10,000 miles away. What do you say? What do you think about that angle on it?
Well, I think it's an absolutely correct angle because at the end of the day, what I said about Fuentes, and I still maintain it, I do think he's bigoted. In fact, I think he's probably extremely bigoted, but ultimately he is not pulling the levers of power. He is asking for us to take our country back and allow us to make that decision. Now, of course, he sees it through a white dominance lens, which I don't agree with, but can we get to a point where we actually can take our government back, where we are not having this what you would call proxy nation in the Middle East decide our fate, especially when it comes to foreign policy? How many different conflicts, since we all know they were involved in JFK's assassination, have we been privy to ever since then? Everything is related to this little country, which is just an extension of us in so many ways. And the fact that he is putting it out there, kudos, but that doesn't mean that he is above reproach. And that is the danger for the Groypers and anybody who supports him. We got to keep this 100, because if he's right on one, it doesn't mean he's right on the other. And that's where the push has to happen, because if we're going to lock arms and end Israel's reign over our country, there has to be an understanding about these issues very, very clearly, as far as I'm concerned.
That's why. But they don't want to talk about that. They strategically avoid that. They want to play to white grievance politics. And look, don't get me wrong, like, they're right in what they say, but it's a half truth. I saw Matt Walsh, this doofus, he's talking about Somalian culture. He said, we're bringing Somalians here. He says, shouldn't we know something about their culture? What is Somalian culture? Culture. We don't need to look at Somalian culture to say we don't fucking want them here. Somalian culture, they're not even good racists. People like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles are filling up the trough with slop for racists, and they're not even good racists. I'm the best racist of all of them. I'm the number one racist on the planet. And
I mean, I didn't say it. He said it.
Peter, he's joking. He's joking. He's joking. He's not.
I think he's. Well, we'll continue. How about he's half joking? Can we say he's half joking?
No, I agree completely. No, I agree completely. He's half joking.
I could say with authority, you are a terrible racist. It's about Somalian culture? Dude, it's because they're from fucking Africa. Well, their culture. We need to make an argument about Somalian culture to say they shouldn't set up an enclave in America? He uses words like assimilation. Assimilation? Their politicians are advocating on behalf of Somalia. We don't want them here. Enough said. Matt Walsh says, well, with their culture's inferior. Just say you don't want a bunch of Africans here. Just say.
But wait, I don't see. Here's the problem.
He's calling them out for what it is, and they're addressing the fact that Ilhan has this Somalian gentleman who's running for mayor, I believe, of I think it's Minnesota.
Minneapolis, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, Does anybody ever want to talk about what our country did to Somalia? How we have destroyed that country? Because we have, I mean, think about how many countries in Africa we have destroyed for their mineral resources. Have you seen?
Still are, yeah.
Have you seen what Sierra Leone looks like today? Where do
I
you
haven't
think
seen
all to people? I don't know if you guys know this in the audience, but you want to know where your electronics go when you don't use them anymore and there's no use for them? It's all being dumped into Sierra Leone. That's what the country's becoming. It is becoming the biggest dump on the planet. And why are they doing that? Because it's one of the poorest black countries on the planet. And what the fuck are they going to do about it? And you want to talk about a corrupt government? Again, we did this to them. So when they talk about, well, why is it that we don't want to have Somalians in the United States? Just like Laura fuckhead Loomer comes out and is like, why do we want to take Gazans into the United States? The one thing I will say, and this is where we will get to where I really do agree with Nick, is that he is very anti-imperialist. And to me, that's his greatest strength, and that's his greatest gift. If you are going to be anything right now, being anti-imperialist is the fastest way we end Israel's stranglehold and the fastest way we could take our country back, because one way or the other, BRICS is taking over. The unification of these major countries worldwide is going to happen whether we like it or not. If we do not figure out how to catch up to China technologically, especially with our infrastructure, especially with high-speed rail, among other things, we're all fucked in the worst way. So that's why I say we can have these banters about how racist somebody like Nick Fuentes is, and I do believe he's a racist, but that's my opinion. At the end of the day, do I think he's right about a number of these issues? Yes, and he is calling out both Knowles and Walsh for their hypocrisy, because they are hypocrites. There's no two ways about it. So, is what it is. We'll finish it up.
Say less, dipshit. Just say less, tough guy, racist. Say less. Just say we don't. And, you know, it's like, that's valid, but they don't want to say that. They don't want to use these racial terms. They want to pander to racial sensibilities. They don't want to use racial terms. They're just running an edgier version of Ben Shapiro. It has everything to do with culture, nothing to do with race, and everything to do with culture, and pandering to this white grievance politics without actually getting to the crux of it, which is that we are an occupied nation. So the whole thing is just pathetic. It's like a white minstrel show. It's just white wigger identity politics. Chest beating, rah, rah, I don't want Somalians in my kids' schools because their culture's bad. You fucking pussy. Just say what you mean.
But you know who would agree with him on a lot of that stuff? I went to school and I quickly, though I was 18, and I never really was around a lot of Africans, people who were, you know, second generation or first generation immigrants, Africans. And my parents are Jamaican. So I did notice that there is a difference between just the cultures here. Like American blacks are way different than Jamaican blacks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think a lot of them would agree with what Nick's saying right there. A lot of the blacks from definitely, I knew people from Ghana and different places, and even the few Jamaicans, that they would agree with Nick's assessment there.
I think a lot of times people want to protect their culture. I think that that's a big part of it. I also think that there is, as I've always said, the biggest thing about racism in the United States is always fear of the unknown. I also think when you grow up in certain situations, as I said, I think a lot of it, in especially with a lot of men, especially nowadays, a lot of sexual repression, I think, plays a big role. And I'm not just talking about whether or not somebody is a closeted homosexual, which maybe Nick Fuentes is, maybe he's not, but I don't really care. What I do care about is that you have a lot of sexually frustrated men, a lot of men who can't get dates, a lot of men who don't have economic prospects that are going to allow them to meet a woman that they feel that they can, you know, have a life with. And that is a very scary place to be. Because when you think about the worst aspects of Muslim culture, and you think about those that practice jihad, one of the more common elements of those types of men are ones of immense sexual repression. that does play a significant role. And I think that that will play a more significant role at home if we don't start dealing with this problem sooner rather than later. And I always encourage men, especially, ones who may be down in the dumps, just exercise and eat right. And you would be amazed at how much your own personal confidence will change dramatically, where you'll just feel better about the world in general than you would if you're not doing that. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to the problem. But what I will say about Fuentes is I tell everybody in the audience, I tell everybody who's been paying attention since we've been running this channel, do not underestimate how much economic anxiety will drive people not only insane, but to the point in which they want to hurt people. That's a common theme. And I understand why Nick is so popular. I do. I don't have to agree with everything he says, and I sure shit don't. But I can see why he's popular. And for people to pretend that they can't see it, I don't know what you're looking at.